mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. It's alive! It's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your mistress of ceremonies, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
That's much too a vulgar display of power, Karis. Hiya. Oh, I like to keep her on her toes.
You didn't do this last week. You were kind and just said hello. You just did your part.
No, I called you a wench, and then
Yeah.
you got confused.
I thought you were being serious, that's why. Oh, Dan, we're not alone. We're not alone this week.
I was going to break into Michael Jackson, but I'll spare you that with my cold. So.
Thanks.
You're not alone.
Zara's here with us.
You can leave now, honestly, Zara, it's fine.
I'm tempted.
Oh, we are joined by Zara. I'm going to apologize in advance because for the last few weeks I have been wanting to call you Mary all the
Most people
time.
do. Yeah.
And that's why I said to Dan, you introduce next week because I'll just end up calling her Mary and looking like a dick. We do. But we have Scary Zara Mary joining us this week.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, aficionado and TikTok wonder and Instagram person thing.
Extraordinaire.
Yeah, that's your official title now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Hang on, let me change my name on Zoom.
You have to tell Tony at the bakery that you no longer go under your name now.
No.
There's some things.
So this week we decided to do hi, welcome to the Monsters Up North podcast. And for everyone, welcome to a new episode. So this week we're doing not only my favorite movie of all time, but Zara's favorite movie. It is Zara's favorite movie, yeah?
Absolutely. Of all
Thank God for
time.
that. But it's not Dan's.
Sorry, Dan.
I like it. It's up there, but it's not the. I'm one of these people who changes my mind depending on my mood. So I could watch it when I'm in the mood. I watched it years ago when it came out and had the cinema release was it the late 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the cinema to watch it by myself because no one would come with me. So I went to watch it, and I have to say that's the only time I've ever checked the back seat of my car before I got in my car to drive home. And it's one of those films that stays with you. When you've seen it in the cinema, there's something about it, seeing it like
Big.
that compared to seeing it on the TV. The noises, they knew what they were doing with the sound on this film. They really did.
Yeah.
It's up there, but not quite there.
I'll do the disclaimer.
Okay.
And then we'll crack on into this week's episode because I have a lot of shit to say. So, everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on our Facebook pages, the Discord, or the comment section, where we can have an open discussion. I bet what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong, because we can all agree to disagree in fandom. So, let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of a nerdism.
As you well know, don't be a dick.
It's a simplified version of what I've just said,
Yeah, because I'm lazy.
put into smaller captions, but still gets the point across. Don't be a dick. So, I've noticed I always start a sentence with "so." Do it at work too. It's very annoying. The Exorcist is the 1973 supernatural horror film directed by William Friedkin from the screenplay by William Peter Blatty based on his 1971 novel, starring Ellen Bernstein, Max von Sydow, Jason Miller, and Linda Blair. Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world. The world of darkness, as Monsters Up North brings you The Exorcist. Da, 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 cha. It's one of those, it is again one of those moments where I would love, like my voice, I feel like my voice is very like cool in that situation, and like something needs to happen in the background, some form of like thunder or something.
Tubular bells or something.
That would
going
have been
on.
fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I bet
Oh,
Paul would put it on if you asked him. I'm sure he'd like,
probably would. So that last scene I said, there's somewhere between science and superstition, is one of the taglines. As I tend to end the intro with one of the taglines, I actually have the rest of them, and there's some fucking belters on here. Like I was very hard pressed to pick which one to go with. Obviously the first one being "What an excellent day for an exorcism," which is obviously from the film. Something almost beyond comprehension is happening to the girl on this street in this house, and a man has been sent for as a last resort. The man is the exorcist.
that's a long-winded one, isn't it?
I really like it though.
That's the one
Oh.
from the poster, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like, this man, where is he? That man right there is
Yeah.
the exorcist. The devil inside, which
Slipknot, that's all I hear now.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like the fact that the devil is used in any connotation of this film, because it's not the devil that possesses that, and it really annoyed us when I was watching a documentary earlier and they kept referring to the demon as the devil, and I'm like, the whole fucking point is that the demon Pazuzu is trying to convince you that it is the devil because it's a dick. Oh, it really just annoyed the pants off us. There's actually another part of the film that annoyed us as well, and I'm going to get into it when we start talking about the film. But the scariest movie of all time has returned in the version you've never seen before. I'm guessing that's the version you watched.
I think there's been 2 or 3 cuts, I think, of the film. There's been the original cut, which is the one that doesn't have the spider walk down the stairs. Then they put it in for I don't know whether it's called the final cut or like a new cut when it came out. And then you had the director's cut, which I think was 2010. So I think there may be more than those 3 flapping around, because obviously every country cut to their standards as well. So yeah, I guess it's one of them. It's one of them.
Quick question. It's just come. I've just thought on. I had props to bring in, and I forgot them. My book and my DVDs.
Oh,
Have any of you actually read the book?
not for a long time.
But you have.
Yes.
I've read the first chapter.
I've not read the book because I don't have time to read the book. I need to read more, but I have this thing, if I start to read, I fall asleep. So I literally can't spend too long on my phone. It makes me go to sleep. Like, I get really sleepy because my brain just powers down. It's like, this is boring. See ya.
It's a dyslexic trait, that because I'm dyslexic, and it's your brain's working overtime, so it makes you more tired because you're having to think about everything that it is that you're reading, which is why by the time I've finished like a couple of chapters, my eyes are streaming. I've read one chapter and it is literally, I bought it at a time when I couldn't decide on what I wanted to read. Because I have moments of, I want to read this book, but oh God, I want to read that one. And I'll start a chapter and then I'll put that down and go, no, that one's more interesting. I'm notorious for having bookmarks everywhere. In like, someone mentioned The Shining the other day and I instantly saw it on my bookshelf and went, oh, I want to read The Shining now. It's got a bookmark in it. Just like every other one. So I've read 8 chapter of it, but I really do want to read it after watching the documentaries I've watched today, because it's obviously the screenplay and the book are written by the same person. When he originally sent the script to Friedrich, am I saying that right? Freaking.
Yeah.
We'll call him Freaking, right? When he sent it to Freaking, he had so many nuances and what's the word I'm looking for? Like subtext and meaning, like a lot of meaning in it, that Freaking turned around and said, I don't like that. I really don't like that. You have a book that I will put money on will do amazing if you do it to the book. You don't have to put in all this subtext and subplot. We just go with a simple story. So he went back for a week and read that book page to page every night and wrote down and highlighted every bit of the script, the book he wanted in the screenplay. And that's how they eventually came up with the script for it.
And that was Billy Freakin, yeah.
Yes,
because
that was
where it gets confusing, because you've got William Peter Blatty that wrote the book and
Yeah.
Freakin that directed the movie, but they both worked together on the film. Yeah, well, let's call because Linda used to call Freakin Billy, didn't she?
Billy.
So if
Yeah.
we call him Billy, that might.
Yeah, William and Billy.
That works.
Oh, my brain's not
We'll,
working.
we'll differentiate. I can't even say the word. William actually wrote it as an unemployed comedy writer. So he only ever wrote comedy before he wrote this. And as he was unemployed with no money, he thought, what have I got to lose? Let's write something serious. And this is what he came out with.
I was gonna say, through a certain lens, it's pretty funny. Like, it's pretty funny, some of the lines that are in there.
Some of the acting in it, not the acting, but the actual like physicality of it. Me and my husband watched it because I watch it every year on Halloween, and we watched it together one year, and he could not stop laughing his arse off when someone smacked Linda Blair across the face. He thought it was so funny, and I was like, it's not meant to be funny. That child is possessed.
It was there was a bit like, I know when he wrote the book, I read somewhere that he actually went on a game show, William Peter Blatty, and he won some money, and it was Groucho Marx's game show, and he won like $10,000 on the game show. And they asked him, what are you going to do with your win? And he said, I'm going to move to a cabin and write a book, was what he said. And we have this. So I don't know if this was directly involved in this, but I thought that was pretty cool, because he does mention Groucho Marx in the, like, when he's the policeman and they talk about the movies.
Yes.
So well, that was cool.
I watched a whole video about the psychology of the policeman.
What he was doing.
And how clever he was, and how he never left a conversation with anyone on bad terms, even though he could have for example, his interaction with Chris, he annoys Chris towards the end of a conversation and instantly turns it around and goes, oh, can I have an autograph? And he always ends on really good terms with everyone he speaks to, even though just before it he has said something that's ticked them off. Yeah, it was a whole video on his psychology, and some of it was a bit like, who cares?
So
Who cares?
would I be right in saying that the original book was based upon that the exorcism of a young boy in Georgetown itself? Because there was that story, wasn't there, that went around. They called him oh god,
it's Doe.
Roland Doe. That was it, wasn't it? Roland Doe. And I know now, I'm sorry for bringing him up because he's a douche, but Zach Bagans, didn't they? They were
God.
episode where Ghost Adventures went to the original house, and he tried to do Ouija boards and, I don't know, got blind or had sex with a ghost like he normally does. I don't know what the frig that man does anymore, but like there was an episode of it, and I remember it bold. I don't know why it's so bold in my brain. And I feel like that was when my brain went, this is extra fake now. He's amped up some level of like showmanship for this one, and I lost a lot of interest in it, because I was quite curious with it to start with, because, you know, everybody's talking about it and you think, oh, I'd see what this is all about. So you start watching it, and then you keep watching it, and you stay quite faithful, and then you don't know why you're watching it anymore, and then something comes along and happens and you're like, why am I watching it anymore? And that was the turning episode for me, where he went to the original Exorcist house.
That one.
It's in the movie, but the one that Roland Doe lived in. I was like, oh.
It was that one. It wasn't the first time you ever clapped eyes on an own screen and went, what the fuck are you?
I think at that point he hadn't been possessed or had sex with a ghost, or He hadn't banned me off. He hadn't blocked me on Twitter then. So
Honestly, I need that on a t-shirt. Dan was blocked by Zach Fagans on Twitter.
Twitter.
Oh,
little things
absolute.
that keep me going.
He's an absolute. He's an absolute plank. It does not surprise me in the slightest that he went there. But the book was inspired. It was 1949 exorcism performed by a priest named William S. Bowden. It didn't sell very well. The book really was a bit piss poor to start with. However, in the 70s, I mean, a lot of people associate satanic panic with the 80s and 90s. Actually, it started in the 70s.
Yeah.
A couple of cases that I've been listening to today on Red Handed, and that was just sheer coincidence as well. I wasn't going out looking for it. I just have a list of episodes, and this one from the 70s came up, and it mentions at the time The Exorcist was out, Rosemary's Baby, The Omen, and so it was such a heightened conversation. And someone on the Dick Cavett show, an audience member, had discussed whether the devil existed, and the conversation started, and then the cases started, and Blatty's book sales just went up and up and up to when it eventually became New York's Times bestseller. So the Satanic Panic boosted.
Helped. Yeah.
So if that was the 70s, that would have been the Anton LaVey / Jane Mansfield thing, where they reckon that they sacrificed a baby so that
Yeah,
she could stay young and relevant.
They didn't.
They painted the church black, didn't they, in San Francisco, if I remember rightly? That whole the onset of Satanic Panic was, but then what happened to Jane was absolutely atrocious. So it's like, I might be wrong in my eras though. I feel like I'm off. Maybe 60s. Jane died in the 60s. Maybe I'm not 100% sure because she was the one who went under the.
I've got three aspects of getting Google in front of us, and I couldn't decide on which one to go and pick it up.
Because Jane Mansfield went under the lorry, didn't she? She got decapitated.
No, she didn't. Her hair came off.
Well, yeah.
So, she didn't get scalped. Literally, the back of her wig came off, and that's Jane's head was completely intact. Her skull, her head, it was a hair piece that people turned into X, Y, and Z when it came to her.
And this then is why that man that ran the dearly departed Deathly Tours told me porkies, because he had the car in his museum, and he kept showing me the black light of all the blood down the backside of it, and he's going, look, this is James Mansfield's blood. And he's like, and
he knows better. He's already said on one of his videos, because I watch them, that it's not true. It was a hairpiece. She was never scalped. Her head was because it was always the thing that James Mansfield's head came rolling off. It fucking didn't. It was very much on her shoulders when she died. Believe you me, I've read it. She died in 1967, so you're not far off.
Okay, so it was it was earlier. I was somewhere in there. Anton LaVey, remember all that business. So
he's such a character. He just wanted to get laid, and that was it, in like the most freakiest ways possible. And he was like, "Yeah, fucking sex magic, come on." He's honestly the fucking worst. Hey, crikey! Right, where are we? Are we gonna? Do you want to know interesting facts, or should we go into the actual film? What should we? The facts can play alongside it. Zara's choice.
Oh no, I don't know how to make decisions. Let's do some interesting facts.
Mm-hmm.
Get the juices flowing.
Oh gosh, hello. Where the hell do I start?
I got one.
Go on then.
The budget for the movie, because this is my forte, the budget for the movie was originally $10 million in 1973. It went over by 12.5 million. So it ended up being, in today's terms, it came to about 68 million by today's terms. But in the box office, this is just at the very time, not including anything sales-wise from now, but for the time it was worldwide released in the cinemas, it took 441 million across the world, which is the equivalent to, are you ready? $3.12 billion in 2024, which makes it one of two of the most successful horror movies to ever have been made. The other one is Jaws. So these two movies stand at the highest. Well, I mean, again, we go into, is Jaws horror? Well, it's a monster movie.
Fucking scared me. So
Yeah.
Same.
So, but yeah, 3.12 billion. It's got Deadpool beat, basically. The new Deadpool movie is well on its way, but it's got it beat. So for a horror movie made
that
on
is pretty cool. That is some coin.
that is, yeah, I can't even comprehend that kind of money.
Well, I've got some alternatives for people who could have potentially been in this film.
Ooh.
And some of them, I think this is where I started to bore Anthony earlier, was the alternative people who could have been in it. So originally the studio was very heavily involved to start with by the sounds of it, but then when Freaking came on, they kind of took a backseat because he's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
So they kind of took a backseat, but initially they wanted Marlon Brando to star as the role of Father Karras, or Father Merrin. They weren't asked. They're just, you be a priest, Mr. Brando. And Freaking went, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Because putting him in that position, it's a Brando movie.
Yeah.
It takes the whole shine off it. And not to say that he wouldn't have been good, because I know Brando has a bit of, but he's still a good actor. I still think he's a good actor. I like The Godfather.
Yeah, I mean, Brando's got his but they say it's a Brando movie. He was a nightmare when he was on set. Everything was about him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was the ego. He never learned his lines. People used to have to stand. They used to have to stand
That's
behind
true.
the camera with all of these like lines on a bloody board. You know, the guy just couldn't be bothered. He just turned up. You paid him. He left. You know, it was about as simple as it was with Brando.
Yeah. Next one, Jack Nicholson was up for the role of Father Karras. Again, I could actually see that not being too bad.
Would one flew over the cuckoo's nest to come out then? Had it? So that's why Nicholson was a.
I'm saying yeah, like I know.
I was just trying to think because I know it was around about that time One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but again, like I say, my dates are all off at the moment.
Oh, it's after 75. Yeah.
So The Shining was later on as well, obviously.
Yeah.
So what? Oh, maybe I'm just. My brain's just trying to think of films that I remember him from, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
being in at that point, because didn't Friedkin say regarding Nicholson that he thought he was too unholy to play a priest? So what had he been in for him to think that? I mean, he's not wrong, but there must have been something.
He literally, I reckon, for me, Jack Nicholson, the way I see him when he's not acting in a specific role is he is the devil from The Witches of Eastwick. That is just Jack. No other character. That guy. That's how I feel like Jack is all the time. That kind of like lives in excess, compliments people, doesn't care if he offends them. He's very much like gets off on causing a bit of a ruckus and then he leaves. He's one of these guys that just sits there and rubs his hands together and goes, ooh. And then, yeah.
Oh, he's Mr. Burns.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, he's Mr. Burns, just rubbing his hands together. Yeah, but thankfully Jason Miller was ready to take the part, so good for him. It wasn't until a few years ago I found out who his son was. Blew my mind. Did not know that. If you didn't know that, it's Jason Patrick from Lost Boys. Sister, yes, it's his daddy.
I didn't know that.
At least I'm not the only one. It was only a couple of years ago.
Love him even more now.
Yeah, that's his daddy. I was telling Anth about it, and I was like, yes, from Lost Boys and Sleepers, and I don't want to say this on here, but My Sister's Keeper, which I have seen fucking more times than I should have.
Can we talk about Speed 2? Thank you.
Oh yeah, and that really terrible boat movie.
How dare you? Did you also know that Jason Patrick is also whose grandfather is? Jackie
Miller.
Gleason.
Shut up!
Jackie Gleason is his mum's father. And so he is a Nepo baby if there ever was one.
Oh my God, if he is... Oh my God, Jackie Gleason. Wow. Every time I think of Jackie Gleason, all I can think of is pow, right in the kisser. It's not even a Jackie Gleason scene.
I think of Joffrey, because didn't they name him Jackie Gleason? Wasn't he called, like, he's got a
He's called Jack Gleason.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I found that out. I thought that was really cool because, you know, Nepo babies, I don't have a problem with Nepo babies. Hey, get in, get on with it. You know, we've got some of the best actors because of Nepo babies, you know, so I don't care. Jamie Lee wouldn't have her if it wasn't for Nepo babies. So
what a fucking brilliant segue. Because when it came down to looking for Regan, they put a casting call out because they weren't actually bothered. Names weren't attached. They just sent out a casting call out, but they also sent a phone call to one Janet Leigh and said, how do you fancy putting Jamie in this movie? She read the script. Now, whether she read the original script or the revised one, because the original was shocking, if you remember me saying earlier, she didn't like it and said, no, thank you. I'm not passing that on. It then lands in the hands of Linda Blair's agency, who takes one look at it and goes, I don't like that. We're not passing it on. But it doesn't escape Eleanor Blair, who then takes a very young Linda down to the studio and says, have my daughter. And she gets the part.
Sacrificing her own child. It's like...
She's also in the movie as well.
Lion Kinging her fucking...
Yeah. Have my child.
Yeah.
Oh Christ, what have I become? Yeah, Eleanor's actually in the film as well.
Is she?
Yeah. So you know the nurse who walks through the door and says, Chris Neal's here for you and she needs to see you now. Or she needs to see you, something on those. That's Eleanor Blair. That's as Linda Blair called her mother. Yeah. My mum would take my face off if I called her mother.
Yeah, crazy.
So when it comes to Chris. So when writing Chris, William had one actress just writing, nothing to do with movies. It wasn't even, you know, that's pie in the sky when he's writing it. When he's writing it, he is writing Chris as his very good friend, Shirley MacLaine. Which I totally get. In a way. Yeah. In a certain way. But, actually, before I move on to Chris, there was one other actress who was considered for Regan, and I can't say her... Can I say her name? Denise Nickerson. And if you don't know who Denise Nickerson is, she is the young girl who played Violet Beauregard in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. She was considered for Regan, and apparently her parents said the script was just too dark. I mean, you're coming off the back of that shit show and going on to the... But that's just my personal opinion.
Dark as hell, and I don't care. I will fight me on that one. Willy Wonka is a horror movie within itself. It's some dirty old, well, not dirty, but some old bloke who lives in a bloody mansion that sets out a thing. Oh, kiddies, come to my house. The kiddies come to his house. Yeah, lick my walls and eat my balls.
Yeah. Have you tried a schnozberry?
The undertones in that film are very weird. I love Rod Dahl, but Jesus Christ, Rob, were you on crack when you wrote that one?
Christ.
Jesus.
I had a mouthful of juice there, and all I could hear was, do you want to see me snozberries? In the most Yorkshire accent ever.
Listen, schnozberry was made for a Yorkshire accent.
Oh, it's the bit where they're going through the tunnel, and there's like all the slaughter of the animals and all stuff. I'm like, if you think that is not a horror film in some way or another,
I hate that film. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
It's one film that there's two films I won't do on the Sunday show. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is one of them, and the other one's A Wizard of Oz. I can't stand them. I don't
I
like
don't
them.
like
You were gonna
Wizard
say
of Oz
that.
either. That creeps me out.
I didn't see the hype. And I know my other podcasting
It's gonna
partner
kill
fucking
you.
loves it and probably is going to kill me and probably will make me do it at some point. But yeah, I am not a fan. Yeah, so Chris, going back to Chris, some unusual names. Jane Fonda.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody, to be honest, I can't see anyone else playing Chris apart from Ellen Bernstein because nobody can pull Jesus Christ stuff like she can. There's a drinking game in there somewhere, mind, for how many times she will say, for God's sake, Jesus Christ. Wish delivers it. Anne Bandecroft.
Oh, okay.
And the last one, being the most unusual out of all of them, and would have completely changed the tone of the movie. It would have been another Brando situation. We wouldn't be focusing on what you'd just seen, who you'd just seen. Audrey Hepburn. And she was a serious candidate.
I'm trying to think. You saw her in more like rom-coms in the 60s, and that was her thing, wasn't it? Like what we would call rom-com now, those like little lovey-dovey movies. I don't recall, off the top of my head, I can't recall anything of her being extra serious. Now this would have sullied her
Sweetheart.
the position. Yeah. So
Yes.
I can see why she didn't take it, but
You imagine Audrey Hepburn getting her head pushed into Linda Blair's bloody crotch, man. Come on. She is royalty. My goodness.
to be
It's all
fair,
right.
I think that was Eileen Dietz, and as Zara
It
knows,
is.
Zara's met her as well.
Oh,
She's
have
as
you?
bad as a box of frogs, that woman.
Nutty. Yeah.
She's insane.
She looks it.
But in the best way. Like, it's
Yeah.
So cute. She's so cute and diddy. And at first you think, oh, she's really like quite frail looking.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's fucking crackers. Absolutely bonkers.
She's every time she's at a show, she'll come up to us, right? She goes, "Have you got any of me? Have you got any of me?" And it's like, it takes me a second. You know, you just have that, oh God, it's Eileen again. You just have that moment, and I'm like, we sold out of you, Eileen. You're so popular.
Oh.
And it's just, you just get this snap second where you're just like,
She's back.
say now. No, it's the unpredictableness of what she's going to come out with, because she's bonkers. She'll just say something really strange, and you just go,
You are right, though. That was Lydia who did that part in the film. They weren't letting Linda Blair do that. Apart from the crucifixion part, she did do that because it's fully on her face. Because what I noticed today when watching the behind the scenes, Lydia looks very different to how Regan looks when they're in the mask. Eileen, Lydia, where am I getting Lydia from? It's because you said Dietz.
Beetlejuice. Yes, Eileen's surname, Eileen Dietz.
Eileen. That's hey, if I'm not getting someone's fucking name wrong, I
It's
ain't on a
not
podcast. I can even see it. It's written in me. No, I can see it in me eyeline. Eileen. Yeah, her face is very different. I've got that on my playlist. I love that song. Her face is very different to Linda's in makeup. So you can clearly tell the difference between the two. So Linda did quite a lot. Quite a bit. Yeah.
Face off.
The face.
When I know that the scene that Eileen did was the pea soup scene, because they had to fashion this weird equipment to go on Eileen's face. It was like some sort of plastic perspex kind of like lower jaw situation, so they could hide the vomit comet straw thing to go in. Oh, it's really weird. I saw like drawings of the get up, and I couldn't visualize it because it was so chaotic. You know, it was just someone who went, we'll do it like this, and then they published it, and you're like, what the hell is that?
Well, I watched the great Dick Smith give an example and show how the tubes. First time I've seen Dick Smith's face.
He's a cute little old man.
Do you know how many people were dead in that documentary that I watched today?
Everyone.
I had to keep pointing it out to Anth. I was like, oh God, he's dead, and he's dead, and he's dead. Oh, fuck me, and he died last year. Yeah. And now can you understand why Anth left the room?
Yes.
The voice of Pazuza is done by Mercedes McCambridge, who, my goodness, did she put herself through the ringer. Now, Friedkin says on the documentary I watch, which by the way is it's incredibly good. It's called The Fear of God, and it's done by Mark Commode. It's a BBC documentary. It's on YouTube, very easy to find. But this is
as well.
Yeah. But this is Mark Commode is the biggest Exorcist fan. He will argue black and white with you that this is the greatest movie ever made.
Guy with the dark hair and it's like slightly quiffy.
Yeah, it looks a bit like Mark Lamar.
That's the one. Yeah, I know exactly. Because they had a recently on BBC Two, I think it was, maybe last year before, can't remember. It must have been last year for the 50th anniversary. They had a whole night dedicated to The Exorcist, didn't they? And I remember we were working a show and I was so happy because I could turn the telly on. And when we were working away, obviously we have to put up with council TV, which is your standard TV channels, which all you've got is Film 4 or Family, basically, because I can't bear any of this Love Island nonsense. I'd rather remove my eyes with a spoon. But like there was this one channel when I was hopping and it said, a documentary on The Exorcist. So I have seen this, but I don't really remember much about it. I remember the guy. So yes, I have seen it.
He's done this documentary, he's done podcast after podcast, interview after interview. Mark will fight anyone and give you absolute in-depth analysis and reasoning behind why this is the greatest movie ever made. It's not just a case of it's the greatest horror movie, it's the greatest movie. And Friedkin even himself said this is nigh on perfect when it comes to movie making, and that will be coming down to the practicality of everything. Everything in that film is done practical. The fact that there is very little goofs in it. It's, you know how Back to the Future is the most perfect movie ever made, according to scientists.
So they say, yeah.
So they say. This, I dare say, this would come very close. For movie making, you can think what you like on the actual movie itself, but when it comes down to the making of the movie, it is nigh on perfect. When you have beds that can lift up off the ground and have nothing to say that bed is physically lifting off the ground. The reason the spider walk was cut out of the original theatre is
breathe.
Put me teeth back in. The reason it was removed for originally is because the strings could still be seen. And if Dick Smith said you can still see some aspect of the string, do not use it. So they didn't. They knew what they were doing. But the version I watched, which is the Blu-ray one that I have a lot of copies of this on DVD. One of them, you even have to flip over halfway through to watch the rest of the film. It's that old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's even got the flippy out, and you've got like a black clasp on it and it pulls up and it's like cardboard. It's that old. But the one I watched last night was a 4K one, and they had the spider walk in, and holy shit, did that actually make me, it didn't scare us, but it made me go, oh, okay, that would have, if they originally showed that in the cinema, I feel like there would have been a lot more outrage than that was.
Yeah, because it just
without
comes
it
out of nowhere, like, and
it's
really quick as well.
But it's perfect though.
But all you hear is the before leading up to it, and you're like, because obviously they pre-called it with, we've got rats in the loft, so you thought, is it that again? Like if you're not up on the storyline, and then everybody, like, she just looks up and everybody's like, and it was a gymnast, I think, or a contortionist that they had do it, but they had her in a sling, which is where the strings were, and she was barely touching the floor, but because her face was covered in blood when she looks at the screen at the end when her head's upside down, that was another reason why they didn't want it, because there was all the hoo-ha with the rating system that comes with this movie as well. Like in the UK, it was actually banned in a lot of cinemas, so they had these things called the Exorcist bus parties, where, like, how British is that? a bus will turn up, everybody will get on it, they'll go to the cinema that's showing it, and then they'll come home again.
You know who would have been getting on them buses though? Little
Me.
old ladies. Little old ladies. I remember watching a documentary on Deep Throat. And do you know how many little old ladies in the UK went to go and see that film and fucking loved it? Because they were catching them outside of the cinema and they were like, have you just been to see this movie? And they're like, yeah. What's your fucking problem? So yeah, little old ladies back in the day, they like to get their freak on.
I mean, the thing about this film was it hit at a time when nothing like it had been brought into mainstream media other than, like you say, the news reports and stuff like that. But there was no film that had come out that was anything like this. I think this is where I always go to when I talk about how desensitized I am now as a horror person, you know, especially the amount Zara watches and talks about, and you know,
you do watch a lot.
Oh yeah.
You get to that point where you want something to give you that initial rush that you felt watching a film. And when you compare every exorcism movie after this, there's only a few that they don't outshine it in any way, but they can sort of, it runs slightly like this way to it. The Exorcism of Emily Rose is one of them that I think she plays that part fantastically. Storyline's a bit cack, but her portrayal of that is absolutely insane. But like, I love an exorcism movie, right? They're probably up there with my favorite genre because there's something about them that technically it could happen to anybody, you know, that it's, you know, this is the same with Stigmata, you know, the one with
I fucking love that film. Gabriel Byrne, my goodness,
Patricia Arquette, isn't it?
You know, beautiful in that film.
In no way is she religious, but yet it happened to her. So there's that whole thing where if you're somebody who believes in something you can't see, and I'm not talking paranormal movies, that's not that's a whole nother thing. But when you look at like religious kind of connotation movies, there's something about them that give me the creeps, because if they genuinely have in the Vatican priests that are there to exorcise demons, there has to be some history in it. And when you look into the history of exorcisms and how long they've been going for, and how the church has like this God squad dedicated to it, and this, like, you know, and they have rooms and rooms and rooms of notes about all these different demons that have been possessing all these people. And it's just like, to me, I want to get my hands on that. I want to read that stuff, because that's where my brain's like, I'm fascinated by religious ideology and religious connotation. I don't believe myself, but there's something about that whole, it's like a kind of mass hysteria thing, isn't it? You know, infectious. Like one person, I can guarantee when this film came out, there was loads of cases of exorcism afterwards, because everybody was like, you know,
can't count how many times I thought I've had stigmata, so it's a true story. genuinely thought not long ago I was going through the stigmata.
You and that crown of thorns, eh? I don't know.
Oh my goodness. The problem is, it started at my feet. So it didn't start in my hands at all. It started in my feet. So how I thought I was having a reverse effect, I don't know. But yeah. The things I admit on this podcast, and that is one of them. I love, when it comes down to religious aspects in horror, and especially possession movies, I like the questioning. And I love the fact, especially the question between, is it possession or is it mental health? And they do that quite a bit in this. She is taken to every doctor. She is looked at for everything. It's in her head. It's completely in her head. Let's give her Ritalin. But
no one wants Ritalin these days.
Fuck me. Let's give her something, because it's mental health. It's not until they are literally out of every other idea that they turn around and go, have you ever thought about doing an exorcism before? If I was Chris, I'd have getting up and fucking, I just walked out.
Yeah.
Did you hear the story though about Ellen Bernstein? She went in 1984. There was a reunion on one of those Good Morning America programs, they have.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how she went to watch the film when it came out. She was working on another film, and she was just curious to see audience reactions. And it was the scene that you're like in that bit that you're talking about, how when they do the throat tap.
Oh, the catheter, yeah.
Yeah.
What are they doing to her there?
It's an arterial catheter.
Why?
No idea. I just know what it's called.
It was the fact that they put the tap in and the blood spurt out, and people were going down like a sack of shit in the cinema due to that scene, because it looked so real. It was the fact that there was no like, as people who are used to watching special effects now, you can see that the misdirection, they don't go into her throat, all that sort of thing. But as somebody in 1973 who doesn't know what special effects makeup is, you as far as you're concerned, special effects is a man in a suit, and that's where it finishes. And you see that. She said she was in the cinema and she saw this woman go down, so she ran over to help her, and then she realized before this woman come around that she shouldn't be there, because the woman would have an absolute meltdown if she saw the woman in the film,
because you're on the screen
down at her, and she thought, oh Christ, no. And she just said, can someone else please help her? And she left.
I would have done it just to see the reaction. There was 2 priests on this film, 2 genuine priests. One of them being, help me out, Dyer, thank you. And the second one is Father Tom Birmingham. Not spelled how we would spell Birmingham, but Birmingham. He was the technical advisor. The other guy, I think he was just a friend of his, Dyer, but huge part.
For someone who doesn't act. I thought he was an actor. I wouldn't have known he wasn't.
He did brilliantly. But yeah, he was the technical director on this. He was actually William Blatty's teacher at school. And
is he the one in that Blatty in the documentary? Because was it Blatty or Friedkin that went and did a documentary about with an exorcist?
If it's going to be anyone, I would imagine it's going to be Blatty, because he was the one who was really interested.
Because I watched it, and I remember there was this really old priest, and he was talking to him like he really knew him. And
did he have white hair?
I remember seeing it, and this is what's going to bug me because I didn't look into it, but it was on Amazon. It probably still is on Amazon, but it is him, and he interviews this priest about exorcisms and about like how close the movie was to any exorcisms that this guy had taken, had done, and because he was an exorcist, he was a retired exorcist, and oh God, when you have that moment where you feel like you've made it up.
Have you made it up?
I possibly have. I feel like it's real.
No, he's huh? You having a moment? She's got. Sorry, I have to keep remembering we've got audio listeners here. No dead air, fill it up. Yeah, he was a technical advisor, and the only request that he had was you take it seriously. It doesn't turn out like Rosemary's Baby. And the minute I heard that, I was like, yes, my friend, let's not turn this into that.
What does he mean by that though? Because I think poor Mia Farrow in that movie, the shit she got put through in the name of acting was absolutely atrocious.
I think it's the Satanist side of things, maybe, because the only way I can look at it is he is a man of God, and the Satanists in that movie are quite cartoonish.
Got you.
That's the only thing I can pin it on, because for me, Rosemary's Baby is a good religious horror film. Even if it does have that ending that makes me wet my pants every time it comes on.
It was called The Devil and Father Amorth. In 2017. I knew I didn't make it up. And it's Friedkin went and interviewed an exorcist, and then they perform an exorcism on a woman whilst he's there as well. And it's real. It's not made up. It's genuine. I knew I hadn't made it up.
I watch a lot of trauma doctors on TikTok. Don't ask us why, but it's almost like what they do for people is almost like a kind of exorcism. It's they do like muscle therapy where they use I don't want to say it's not crystals, but it's not stones either. It's some form of instrument that they run down muscles, and it's like a release mechanism, and it's kind of like getting the trauma out of your system. It's so honestly, I'm not selling it very well at all, but it is very like when I watch it, I'm like, oh, that poor person. If you like hear the anguish that comes out of them and the release that they're getting from it, and it's like, oh, and they're being made all better by getting rubbed down with some stones. It's like, I like it.
So that's how the church have exercised people for years.
Just get some stones and rub it on them.
They just broke out a couple of those weird massage octopus things. Like, give them a good old 1-2, and we're done. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if any of you use the cold crystals for your face, where it's like the shape, like in a weird shape, and you like push them up against. I do, and it looked like one of them. That's the best way I can describe it. So there.
I'm not a hippie, but I do know what you mean. So.
Fucking not a hippie. I'm just well, I am kinda, but I see things on TikTok and go, I'll have that. Hence the reason why I bought that electric fucking face massager. Sorry. Oh, I really am that person though. You know, when something comes
TikTok shop.
Yeah. When something comes up on TikTok and they're like, and you're gonna need this because it's so revolutionary. I've just heard revolution and just went, yes, I will have you.
Me with Tupperware on TikTok shop. As soon as there's a new Tupperware, I'm like, yeah, I'm in there. Give it.
Did you get the lunchbox with the sections and the knives and forks at the top, and it has chopsticks? Don't know why, but it has
I've not got that one, but I've got a huge round one with different sections that you can make removable. Because myself and my friend Rose do videos that are called Tuppy Tours, where we show we record each other and our Tupperware snacks at the cinema. So now it's a case of we need to one up each other with our Tupperware game, and TikTok is the place to be.
I've seen those videos. I've seen that video.
Took me out. Come on.
Oh, brilliant. Oh,
I'm so used to a southern accent on here, and obviously my northern drawls, that when the Yorkshire accent comes in, I'm like, oh, listen to it.
Shock to the system.
It's perfect.
She could crank it up a notch or two and start thee and thou in, you know. Go down the shops and
yeah. Start cutting out on my teas.
Yeah.
Yorkshire.
Yeah, proper Yorkshire.
Yorkshire pudding.
Do it for Yorkshire.
I'd say I don't like. Yes, I am from the northeast, and you can clearly tell I'm from Sunderland. I'm not from Newcastle, but I don't know our dialect well enough to be like to start like. The only thing I know from Newcastle is what they say. What a lot.
Come with what?
What,
like instead of us.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
We like to say like a lot. An hour. I think that's just a northern thing in general.
Yeah.
Like our Dan.
Alas.
And used to call us that for years. It's awful. It's
horrible. My dad, one of my dads and my sister are all in Morley. So I'm used to like every day I hear, you know, Yorkshire accent. It's in my ear every day. So it's like it wouldn't, you know, it's part of my life because proper Yorkshire. And all my friends were from Rotherham or from Sheffield or from, you know, all around there. So I was always the odd one out. So I you know, I lived my life being a weird southerner with northern friends.
An adopted northerner there.
Yeah, well, I can't do a Geordie accent or a Macam accent yet.
Well, no, you can say water or water.
And latte.
Latte. And says when I'm on the phone, he says my Geordie accent comes out, and it's like it's fucking impossible because I'm from nowhere near Newcastle at all. But I did call you a southerner the other day, though, Zara. I was like, she's southern to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna say compared to you, yeah, I am.
But technically, you're northern. It's Dan who's the southerner.
Yes.
She's the wildling, so I won't worry about it. She's almost a wildling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we determined it, didn't we?
Yep.
She was
A
like, well,
wolf.
if we're going to have a Game of Thrones map, you're a wild. No, I'm not a wildling. I'm a Stark.
Yeah, you're near the wall. The Scottish are
Yeah.
the wildlings, and you're near
Yeah.
the wall, Hadrian's Wall. Anything south of that.
I said you were a Tully because you're just below
Yeah.
us.
That's fair.
I'm a Lannister, if we're going by like.
Yeah.
I am
was
the same size as Tyrion, though. That's
These are the kind of conversations we have off air, trying to figure out where we are on a Game of Thrones map.
Well, we try and get it out before we come on, because you don't want to end up saying something like, oh, yeah, I'm the same height as Tyrion Lannister, but you end up saying these things and then they're out there forever. So I'll take that one back.
Because some fucker will end up clipping it and it'll always be there.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris.
I'm gonna superimpose my head on bloody Peter. Oh no.
You dick.
Yes,
You said it now.
Yes, please.
You've said it now. Let's go through the movie. It's not the longest. Do you know, it doesn't feel like the longest of movies when you look at the actual plot of it? Or is that just, but it is quite lengthy? Does that make sense? Or am I just talking shit? Or did it just feel like it was long the other night?
I think it feels quite long because, like, I always forget about the dig scene at the beginning.
Mm.
I cannot think how many times I've seen this film, and for some reason it always surprises me.
Yeah.
We've got Merrin out in Iraq or wherever. I know it
Yeah.
was shot in Iraq, but doing that
And
whole dig scene, and that goes on forever. It feels like get to the good stuff.
You were right.
Pea
It
soup.
was. Do you know that only lasts for 9 minutes? That whole interaction at the end is 9 minutes long. That cannot be right.
No.
That was one of the things that I read yesterday, and I was like, that cannot be right. And I'm not sitting timing it either, but it cannot be right.
I still love the fact that Max in this movie was 44.
Yep.
My age. He's my age in this film. The bloke looked like this for the rest of my life. He never aged past, he never got younger or older.
Mm-mm.
How he looked in The Exorcist was how he looked for the rest of his living days to me. It's like, I don't know what he looked like without all the latex to make him older, and
I can't see it. Because for me, Merrin goes to then start Star Wars and Force Awakens because I've never seen him in anything else till then. And then he is the Three-Eyed Raven in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And that is all I have seen of him. So yes, you're right. To me as well, Father Merrin, Max von Souden, is an old man. But he wasn't. He was a young man. Very polite man as well. When Linda Blair had to... I've never seen it. I have the soundtrack on my playlist, but I've never seen it.
Gordon's alive. Only because Brian Bless is at every single bloody Comic-Con I ever go to, and
I love Brian Bless.
You don't need a microphone; you just hear him shouting, "Gordon's alive!" From.
It's not what I would want him to shout at me, though. I'm a huge Blackadder fan, and I still stand by Blackadder 1 is some of the funniest fucking British comedy ever created, and him just shouting "Edna" is some of the greatest lines he has ever said.
He was Minion Merciless, wasn't he, in Flash Gordon? Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah, I just had to double check because I knew, like, as soon as you said Flash Gordon, I was like, I'm sure that I better check before I open my mouth. But yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know because I'm shit at watching films and I've never seen it. But you were right though, Zara. He was in northern Iraq. Doing his archaeological dig of Hatra. That's what he was digging. And he see this bit, it always used to confuse me because it's like, did he find Pazuzu here, the statue, or was it a fragment of it? Was it? I get a little bit confuddled.
For me, it's how northern Iraq gets to a little girl playing a Ouija board with Captain Howdy. You know, it's like I don't know how we're supposed to say. Is it because that's not the same demon, or is that because they're setting the scene that he brings that demon with him when he comes to
He must.
exorcise her, and she's already
Well, he knows him.
wounds.
Well, Pazuzu knows Merrin because he
Yeah.
says Merrin's name. So maybe it is a case of the fact that Merrin has found this talisman or whatever it is that he has is brought Pazuzu back to let's go and find some innocent and fuck shit up. That's what it really wants to do. And how it finds Regan, it's called movie fucking magic.
We don't question.
We don't
But yeah,
question.
No.
I think for me, if I was to make a change to this movie in any way, my one change would be that I would like more exposition around the Captain Howdy situation. I'd like more to do with that, because it feels like it's so glossed over, that bit where she just whacks out the Ouija board and her mum goes, do you know how to use it? And she goes, yes, see. And then, do you think my mum's pretty? And then it doesn't move again. Like it initially shoots off and you think, you go, oh, she might, there wasn't enough there to establish the fact that there was something a bit deeper going on. I don't know whether that was the intention or not, but I felt like it was.
I get what you mean, because there's another part in here that I wish, and we'll get to it in a second, that I wish was fleshed out a bit more. And me and Anthony nearly got into an argument over it earlier. Because his was, maybe it's the reason it's not there for is because it's your imagination, and like, no, because the storytelling or not even storytelling, for visual sake, it should have been there. And I will get to it in a bit. But before all that, we meet Chris before we meet Regan. And we meet Chris walking down the street, going to do her movie, because she's a movie star in the talkies.
You can tell she's an actress because the way she reacts to absolutely everything that happens is
so
The drama.
She honestly, yeah, exactly that. And I think that takes me out of the movie to a degree. I think that's why I don't hold this as high, maybe, because I find Chris the most annoying character in the whole movie. I understand the purpose of her being there, and I understand the fact they've written her like that, but it's just like she has moments where things, like when Regan wets herself, it's not an issue. She goes, oh, she's ill, takes her up the stairs. But then there's a moment when Regan says something like, go fuck your mother or something, and she's like, oh my god, and it's like, all right, love,
Yeah. I can only imagine and desire to reach the level of dramaticism that comes from that person. I want one day to be able to screech hysterically while I feel like I'm going through the stigmata. But yeah, Chris is an actress, and we get to meet her friend Burke Dennings. Remember the name, Burke Dennings. And she's shooting a movie, and it shows you a scene from the movie where you actually do get to see not Merrin, what's the other?
Aris, yeah.
Thanks. You get to see him all smiley. He's adorable, by the way.
You know, he's 5'5".
Yeah, you can tell he's really small. He looks really small.
I heard a story about how, Karis's mum, she's probably like a little Italian, like
Demi. Demi.
Freaking found her in a restaurant. She was just a little lady eating a dinner in a restaurant, and he went up to her, do you want to be in a film? And she was like, okay.
Oh,
Billy.
Just some little nonna he found in like in a restaurant, and I was like, well, that's pretty cool, because it's not like, that is the one thing I think I do appreciate about, well, not the one thing, many things, but one of the big things I do appreciate about this movie is that it didn't go on names. Names were created through this movie, or were slightly, they were there, but they weren't like stratospheric names to take you out of it. So I like the fact that it wasn't kind of planned. You just saw her in a restaurant and went, she'll do.
You look old enough.
You look like a nonna.
Nonna. Oh, little nonna. So yeah, once we've been on the set, I get a little bit of a insight into Burke. Did you know that during the making of this film, now bearing in mind this is a film that was shot over a year and a bit, so it's not like a month thing, but during the production of this film, 9 people associated with this movie died. He was one of them. The guy who played Burke Dennings. He wrapped his shot up and went home and died. Quite literally.
Was it? This was one on Cursed Movies, wasn't it?
Yes,
As
it
well.
was.
Yeah. The thing is though, in Max von Sydow in the documentary I watched said it actually it was Ellen Bernstein who said this is a movie that spanned out over a year and a bit. Things happen.
People die.
Yeah. To see it's a cursed movie, like one of them who's part of that number 9 was Max von Sydow's brother. He died during the production of this. Sound guy, guy who refrigerated the room.
I mean, if you're going to expand it to all those people, then
craftsman who made
Yeah.
the sandwiches. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the kind that it wasn't a kid.
Caterer number 4, please.
You've been replaced by caterer number 5. But yeah, it wasn't a case of like that. When I think of cursed movies, or even cursed programs, I'm looking at. I've just been talking to her about with Ant because it's just been announced today that 5 people have been arrested with the murder of not murder, the killing of Matthew Perry, and it just took us on this whole conversation, and we ended up talking about curses because we were talking about people who go back to drug taking at the level they were when they were an addict, not to when they've had their sober period and
Like
the
their
guy
body
from-
can't deal with
yeah.
it.
Well, Corey, I'm trying to get to where we get to Glee so it doesn't look like I went from that to Glee. But Corey Monteith
Yeah.
was one of them. And then we started talking about Glee, and I was like, if we're talking about cursed productions, that is what I would class as a cursed production, because you've got a few people who've died under very different circumstances. One drowned, saving her son. Another drowned through drug overdose. No, died through drug overdose. Another one killed himself because, big
It's
massive
headline.
peddler.
Yeah. There is an episode of True Crime and Cocktails, which is Lauren Ash from Superstore's podcast. Her and her cousin Christy, they do an episode, and it's called The Glee Curse, and it's been given awards as well. And they talk about everything that happened, and we're not just talking about the main characters that died, like the fallout that went with Matthew getting accused of all sorts of stuff as well, and just this snowball effect that completely affected all of the cast in one way or another. And that to me is cursed. Cashier number 4 dying is not exactly where I would put a curse. I would say coincidence, yes. Curse,
no,
maybe not. No.
So, but yeah, Dirk. Oh.
Dirk Diggler, yeah.
Dirk. As I said, that someone knocked at my door. My cats are trying to get in. Burke Dennings is one of them. Once we've finished up on Chris's set, we then swiftly move into her home and see that she's, in this very luxurious house with hired help. The nicest people you'll ever come across. Carl, just love that man. Love the fact that he, nearly sparked out Burke at the show because he kept calling him a Nazi. I was like, go on, Carl, fucking tell him. But we get to meet Regan, we get to see her life, and we then have the party.
At this point, she's been going off the rails a little bit, hasn't she? She started to
show signs.
Yeah, there was like not aggressive behavior. It was when she took when she took her to the doctor, the very first doctor, who comes out, sparks up a fag in the middle of the hospital every time. That never ceases to amaze me, and I know it happened, but it never ceases to amaze me. And he's standing there having a fag in the middle of the hospital talking to Chris, and then he takes her in the room, and all the time I'm feeling like he's hitting on her. It's not about the kid at all. It's like he's being kind of, there's like a lecherous undertone to it all. And it was just before they go, like she sees all the other guys, but he says, do you know what your daughter said to me? And it's that bit, that's when you go, okay, how does a 12-year-old know that? I mean, she's around adults, so I get you might overhear something, but
not that word though.
I think she's very well protected. It's not like she comes from the northeast of England and fuck is just another replacement for and in a conversation. So I can imagine she's quite protected. So to hear that, I love the fact that Chris laughs.
Yeah.
that she absolutely wets herself. Where she learned that from? Oh, Chris, you just fucking wait. But did you notice? I don't know if any of you has noticed, and it's only because possibly we have the high resolution on my television. You start to see the cracks in Regan's face as she's starting to become a little unwell. It starts with her lip.
She looked tired, and she had like
Eyelids, yeah.
yeah.
You see, you're starting to see like the skin's color starting to change, and the lips are starting to change. So there is deterioration starting to happen. It's not as severe as what you see later on with all the cuts and everything on her face, but you do start to see tiny, and that's just, you know, Dick Smith being amazing. And let's put in some tiny little details to show that the signs are starting to come there. Well, I'm trying to make sure, because I'm literally just going off a bit by bit here, and I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything out. When Chris is in the house and she can hear the rats upstairs, and she goes into the kitchen and the lights are starting to flicker on and off. Is that before or after the party?
Before, I think.
Before.
Yeah.
I watched a few years ago, I had this on Halloween, and I was only in the bedroom watching it, and it was, I don't know if it just became a point of where I was just staring at the telly and just staring dead at it. And that moment when the lights started to flicker on and off and Pazuza's face shows up on the fucking cooker,
God.
I've never seen it before. I levitated out of bed. Like, even when I put it on the other day, Anth was like, "You're not going to get scared, are you?" And I was like, "It was one fucking time. One fucking time." As something I know this film inside out, back to front. I don't feel like I could walk out the room, come back in, and I could repeat you the line that have just been said as I was out the room. But I have never seen that moment where Pazuza's face shows up on the cougar.
That's what I love about The Exorcist, because, like I said before, God knows how many times I've watched this film. And sometimes I'll have it on in the background, but sometimes I will intentionally put it on to watch it and enjoy it. And I'll always pick up on something and go, hang on a minute, I haven't seen that before. Why did that happen? Or, yeah, just tiny little details.
That was one of them. Well, did you know that makeup there that was used on the Pazuza face that you see that flashes up continues? That is a scrapped photo. That is a scrapped makeup that they were going to use for Regan.
Yes.
Glad they didn't, because I don't like it.
No.
It's not very.
It's not.
It looks like she's got like a balaclava on, and this is all you can see, and it makes her face look very strange. Like, I don't know. It looked more like fantasy witch without the nose than it did like.
It's a great start, but it's a great starting point, because then the next one turns into a witch.
Yeah, really.
The kind of makeup. So it's a great progressional point to where you actually get the Regan that you see on screen. So without it, you don't really get where, because it was just work in progress, but freaking like it so much, he was like, "We'll have that as Pazuza's face."
Well, I know they splice it in one frame on many of an occasion, and you can blink and miss it 1,000 times. It's done, I think, I don't know whether it's the one I watched or the one before, when they went back and remastered it all. They spliced in for one frame Pazuza, I think, in one of the cuts for about 10 times over the period of the film. So you're subliminally being fed that image without you even knowing it. And the only time you really get to see it is towards the end for any extended period.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're ready for it when you see it without even knowing you're ready for it, because you've been introduced to it subliminally right up until that point. So I thought that was a clever, like, mind trick for sure.
There is also one other scene, and it's not Pazuza's face. So when Chris is leaving the bedroom after she's walked in and it's absolutely freezing, she's shut all the curtains and everything, and she walks out and she leaves the door open, and you see her walk into the hall and walk to the stairs. You stay with Chris the entire time as she's taking that walk. What you aren't focusing on is where the door frame is. There is a black spot here. Pazuza's statue is right there.
Yeah.
I watched some YouTube video of someone putting high resolution on it, and it is right. And when I watched it, you could make out the lines. You could make out the arm sticking up in the air, and I was like, oh, shit, that's fucking. I wondered why I mean, I know this is quite, you know, this is a proper movie. So moments like that, I wouldn't blink twice. Yes, we're going to watch Chris walk from the door to the stairs. Not in a million years do I think there's a fucking statue hiding behind a door. But yeah, get big, massive statue. And a lot of the poses that Regan has in hospital or sitting in bed are Pazuzu poses, where she's got her arm up in the air. And
not clocked that.
That's only because a YouTube video told us.
I do
Makes me wanna
know.
go back and watch it again, so it's fine by me.
Yeah, no, I do know there's that whole controversy with the guy that was the radiotherapist slash
Serial killer.
ended up being the serial killer, the bag murderer or something.
Yes. Hold on.
That was unexpected. Like when that came out, I think it wasn't until he was released from prison, or it became more common knowledge due to the internet anyway. And I don't remember it being a thing. Like I only found out about it about 5 years ago, I think, maybe most.
I've got it here. I've got it somewhere that on my fucking notes. Paul Bateson. So he's the X-ray technician in the shot. He literally just wasn't a guy walking off the street and they were like, "Can we pinch you for an extra?" And that's how we got in. He was in 1979. He was convicted of the murder of film critic and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. It's not funny that he murdered anybody. It's the fact it was a film critic. But yeah, he got sentenced to 20 years in prison. However, when he was in prison, he started to brag about other murders that he did. Six men that he picked up at a gay bar, and he murdered them, dismembered them, and placed them in plastic bags. Them crimes were true. However, he was never charged with those murders, and he died in prison in 2003. The whole story revolving around the bag murders was then fictionalized into a movie called The Cruisin', directed by who?
Billy Friedkin. Capitalize on it, why not? Let's be honest. I just find that like that's happenstance. That's not curse.
No.
That's like coincidence that they found this guy.
Yeah.
And that he was coming on and he did what he did. It's just like the familiarity as well with the fact that both Ellen and Linda fractured their spines on the set. You know, it's just coincidence. Yeah. I mean, you can see Billy Friedkin had a hell of a reputation, if I remember rightly, for doing some really shitty things to elicit the reactions that he wanted. He didn't trust the actors to do the job that they were being paid for because he didn't like disingenuous reactions. He didn't like over-rehearsed reactions. He liked spontaneous reactions. So there was one story about how he shot a gun next to Jason's head and Jason went absolutely ballistic at him because
he walked off the set.
And he walked off. And there was another one where it was with Ellen where they pull her on the rig when
Regan's it's where Regan slaps her and she falls backwards onto next to where the window is. When you see Ellen Bernstein flail across the floor and is screaming in agony, that is genuinely her back shattering because of what they just
coccyx, wasn't it? Like she was on a coccyx.
Same with Linda though. It was in that harness where she was doing the backwards and forwards thing. And obviously they sped it up a little bit, but it was to the point of where she'd fractured her spine, which then caused scoliosis, which then caused her to have excruciating pain for the rest of her life.
No wonder she's bitter about this film.
Well, you can hear her say when she's been like smacked back and forth, she's going mother, but you hear her say Billy. At one point. Yeah. There's a couple
of occasions she shouts Billy because she's trying to get them to stop. And the problem is freaking being because in their moments it's perfect to him. So he leaves them in so you can still hear her saying it. Dyer at the end of the movie when he's given his best friend the last rites, he wasn't. Now, bear in mind, Dyer is not an actor, and you said yourself earlier, for not being an actor, he was really good. Freaking didn't see it that way, and give him a good hard fucking slap. And when his hand is shaking as he's given the last rites out, it's because he's just been slapped in the face. I'd have nutted him. I'd really gone all northern on him, and I would have laid a nut. Not gonna lie.
Barnsley chop.
What like its initial reaction for me is like someone hits us. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna nut them now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can get arrested for like slapping a priest. I'm sure there's some sort of law somewhere out there, like
do you
really abuse or something. I don't
priestal abuse. But yeah, he was notorious for being an arsehole, but because of what they were getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a case of he was an arsehole all the time. He was just a perfectionist. And because of the way that he is on this movie, it's the reason you get this movie. Because if you don't, and you have a soft-touched director, you don't get the shots. No. It doesn't work. There's a reason this film's fucking amazing, and it's because of him. And it's incredibly sad that he's no longer with us anymore. He was the one who died last year.
I'm on the fence about that because I feel like.
What about that he died last year, or being a good director?
Yeah, special guest.
Should I go and get my Ouija board?
It's the bit where, for me, you're employing actors, right? Actors act. That's what they do. If they are not able to elicit the reactions you require, then get another actor that can. Don't scare the fucking ever-loving bejesus out of them by firing a gun next to their head. There's one thing for me, he could have killed him. He genuinely could have killed him. It was,
but the freaking he would have turned around and went, but I didn't.
I know.
That's the kind of attitude you would have gotten from him, but I didn't.
But it's the egotisticalness of it as well. It's the fact that, yes, you made a fantastic film. Yes, it's one of the very few horror movies to ever get Oscar nominations. And we're not just talking about Oscar nominations. We're talking about supporting actress, lead actress, supporting actor. We're going for the top.
Big names.
The top ones. And, there was all that controversy anyway with Linda Blair because it wasn't her voice. It was the other lady's voice, that Mercedes lady. And then when they found out she hadn't wholly played the part, she shouldn't have actually been nominated because you're only supposed to be nominated if you play the part as a whole.
What a load of shit.
But yeah, so there was that whole thing. So she never won that year due to that, but they think that she would have won had that have not happened.
Yeah, so, that is a load of shit because that little girl, and I want to class her as a little girl because that's what she was at the time of making this film.
14, wasn't she? When
she, you may not be able to hear her, but she said them fucking words. She didn't know what she was kind of saying, but she still said every single word that was on that script. That is how you get the voice and the mouth movement as good as you do, is because Linda Blair is saying it. There's a lot of things Linda Blair did in this film that she didn't quite understand what she was doing, but she did the makeup of it. So when Regan's gone through a whole load of hospital appointments to the point where we eventually get the possession starting to appear at home and the transformation of poor old Regan's face to where it's, oh gosh, how best to describe it?
The Exorcist as we know it, basically. The face as we know.
I mean, she's staring right at me in 3D vision right here, so hey. Is she pretty? Yeah, so we start to see that now. Linda went through so many different transformations with the face alone. First being the contact lenses. Can you remember when we were talking about Lon Chaney? What is it that he used for the white lenses again?
Whites.
That's it. Didn't do that for Linda on this one, but they did say it was probably the most comfortable lenses she had on was the white ones because they were quite lubricant. And then I was thinking, what did Lon Chaney use for his eyes? And I was like thinking to myself, was it eggshells? I was getting, no, it's not eggshells.
It was something to do with egg whites, and he practically blinded himself with it, like make kind of like a gel out of them, and yeah, he was batshit crazy.
But a fucking genius.
Aren't most of them though? So
Yeah. Don't try it at home though, kids. Not advised. So yeah, the contact lenses, as much as everyone would think, oh, it's just contact lenses, she had to sit in them for
Well, she had a reaction to them as well. Like, she did not get on with the contact lenses at all. So I think they had to use some sort of numbing drops on her eyes
yeah.
in order to wear the lenses.
So she wouldn't have been able to see a goddamn thing.
No.
Wow. Then you've obviously got the actual makeup itself that's on her face. And as we have talked about countless amount of times, the piss on with makeup. We love it. It makes films work, but the actors really do suffer for the art when it comes down to then. This is heavy makeup, heavy duty makeup as well. There is cuts, there is creases, there is a lot of molding done in it as well, because it completely, the shape of Linda Blair's face just completely changes with the makeup that's on it. The movement with the spinny head.
yeah, the 360 thing.
So that's a doll.
Yeah.
It doesn't initially start as a doll. It starts as, I think it starts as Ellen, and then it changes into Regan, and then it turns into the doll. And as it spins round, in the first moment you get of when it comes back around again, that's the doll, but then it changes back to Regan again. There's such a moment with this that, because you can tell clearly that the doll is staring right at you when the head spins back round again. That is not a normal human being. If it is, then fuck me. That doll, I always remember this from a documentary from years ago. That doll was, as a tester, was taken out and put into a New York cab, and just the cab driver was told to drive around. And there would, as occasionally, the doll's head would turn and look out the window, and then they would get an indication from the drivers next to them what their reaction was like, and that's how they tested the doll to make sure it was effective.
Oh no, thank you.
No.
I know Dick did a thing with the help me on the stomach. That one I found really interesting.
Yeah.
He basically made a latex section of Reagan's stomach that he molded off of her, and he wrote the words "help me" on her stomach, and then there was a chemical reaction because he used cleaning fluid onto the latex,
right.
so it created like a bubble, and then it
pushed it up.
It pushed it up, but the way they shot it was in reverse for the film.
Yeah.
So it sort of made this look like scar kind of thing happen, like it was coming out from inside. And he basically did something with that, and then created more. When he realized that worked, he had hair dryers going over. What you don't see is the 4 people that were holding hair dryers over the top of that scene, trying to get the reaction to come up. But they used it with like some of the blisters and the pulsating things she had on her face as well. So Linda's having cleaning fluid put on her face at some point. I mean, we love Dick, but yes, you can crop that for a soundbite.
I'm being careful in what I'm saying.
I'm not. I'm not in today. But yeah, we love Dick Smith, and he has ways.
And just cut off after the Smith part. It's not any worse than what I said on Sunday when I said Lee left a Lee-size hole in my heart, and everyone didn't hear the heart. But I don't think I actually said heart. I just said Lee left a Lee-size hole.
Lee's 7'4", so that's a big hole.
He's not that big. He is a giant, but he ain't 7'4".
Look, everybody's tall to me.
That is true. So there's a bit in the film that I mentioned earlier that I felt needed to be a bit more fleshed out, and I want your opinions on it. So it's just before all this kicks off, before it's where Chris is starting to realize that maybe there's something really seriously wrong with Regan, and maybe it's because she's killed one of her friends. The death of Burke Dennings. What really annoys me about this movie is that you don't really get to see Burke before he dies. You only get to see the aftermath. Chris actually walks past him when he's dead on the ground because there's a lot of people surrounding him. She doesn't, I mean, and for Chris, she wouldn't look. She's not in the right frame of mind. She just wants to get home. Her child's sick. But we, as an audience, don't even know that Burke has been in the house.
No.
So you get the story that you get the detective coming to the door and saying, "Did you know Burke Dennon's dead?" Oh, she goes on all ridiculous and dramatic. And then her baby or nanny turns around and says, "Burke was in the house. And he stayed here while I had to go and tend to something for Regan." And then the next thing we know, he's fallen down the stairs and he's died, when in actual fact, he was pushed out of the window with his neck turned all the way around and hit the bottom of the deck. But we never see Burke in the house. We never see him there. We never have any indication that he's been there. And for me, it feels like shitty editing that you've gone from someone's dead on the ground to them finding out Burke's dead and then possibly Regan kicked him out the window. There's no indication of any of that happening.
No.
In that part.
It doesn't allow the audience to put two and two together in their head. You literally have to have it spelled out to you, don't you?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Anth was like, well, maybe you've just got to like use your imagination. And I went, well, I totally get some parts of movies that you do have to use your own imagination. However, there's no indication he was actually ever there for us. Maybe for them, but we don't see that. So that part really, really annoys us, is Burke Dennon's death. Because I feel like if this is the start of the evil that is implanted into Regan, why aren't we fleshing out what she can fucking do before she has even gone fully fledged, fucking demonized?
How capable she is.
Exactly. Oh, so glad to feel the people on my side.
When I watch this film, I always feel like I've missed something at that part, though. It always sort of takes me out quickly because I'm like, oh, hang on, did I miss that bit? You know, it like you say, the only time it's alluded to that he was ever in the house is by the PA babysitter, the poor gopher lady that works for Chris, the PA.
Sarah.
That's the one. And I left her with him quickly because I had an errand to run. Okay, well, he's hardly someone I'd leave my child with, firstly.
No.
Well, that's what Anne said. He was like, yeah, a lot of choices. But you don't even get to see any of that. You don't know any of that's happened. And I feel like it's such a missed opportunity and probably something that is a bit more fleshed out in the book. Because I remember reading something about when William was writing it, he didn't want Burke to die. In his head, Burke was living and there was nothing, but as he was writing it and going on, and he actually had to stop himself and go, I'm going to kill Burke Dennons off here. That's how much he was in this book, was that he was literally writing the person as a point of view, and it was like, oh my God, he's got to die. It's going to be now. And if that's so pivotal for him as a writer, how is that for a viewer not to be involved in?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not the only one. It really annoyed us and I thought to myself last night, I'm going to purposely pay very close attention to around the death of Burke Dennons because I want to see what the fuck's going. And when I realized I haven't missed anything, it's just how the film is, I was quite relieved in myself because I know what my memory's like. And I'm like, oh, you did remember. It's okay. So once we have the whole famous crucifix scene.
Yeah.
I don't particularly want to go into it because it makes my stomach feel a little bit queasy. And I don't particularly want to say words that would make me mother blush.
All I will say is that scene, as we all know, was pure shock tactics.
Yeah.
That's it was fingers up at the church. That's what that was. It was. What is the most vile thing we can do without taking it to a sexual? Even though it kind of is, it's different. It's not.
It's brutal, is what it fucking is.
I think for me, you hear a lot of people call it the cross masturbation scene, and it's like, But that's not what it is.
No,
There is no.
it's mutilation more than masturbation.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
more violent than it
Yeah.
is enjoyable. Because she's unaware of what's going on. She, in possessions, they technically say that they're in there somewhere and they're watching. They're just a spectator of what's happening. So her body's being violated in a horrific manner, in a brutal way, by her own hands. And it's they all said, because it was a crucifix, obviously, that was the thing everybody focused on for the issues, for the reasons why you shouldn't watch this film, because it was blasphemous and blah 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 blah. If there was such things as heaven and hell, now if there is, that's fine. If that's what you believe, also that's fine. If there are such things as that, do you not think that they would do something that was the most sacrilegious use of ideology?
Yeah.
Of course they will. Of course they're going to pull something like that. They're going to do
Right.
something that would make you feel violently sick without questioning everything. I mean, she's a 12-year-old child. And it even if, putting it into real perspective, take it away in the movie, I get why they did it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like it, but it has its place in the film.
Makes my toes curl.
But by like it, I mean I'm at peace with the scene. You know what I mean? Like, but it has its place in the film. It has its place. It's the thing that makes you go, she's completely gone now. We're left with something completely different.
We're left with this. We're left with someone we're left with a girl who is claiming that the devil, bearing in mind, she says the devil is possessing her. And that's what everyone thinks. And Karis comes into, because the one in exorcism done, what we should really say is that Karis is a psychologist, as well as he's a priest. So he really tries to fight the whole mental health versus possession. And this is what I love about possession movies, is the questioning. Emily Rose is exactly the same. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but The Exorcism with Russell Crowe, there was a lot of talk in the beginning part about the difference between mental health and possession, because let's be honest, a lot of exorcisms have been done on the basis of people who have severe mental health. And I love the questioning being brought into it, to where it's all of the possibilities, everything's being taken off the table. It's as clear as day, this is a possession. And the minute you see her, you go, yeah, that's mental health can't do that. As much as it will try, it cannot make you look like that.
The bit I like about it is when she's first talking to Karis. Karis is in the room, and she opens the drawer with her telekinesis powers, and he just sits there and goes, do it again. And then she says what I said earlier about it being a vulgar display of power. And if that was the devil would be bloody ripping the roof off the house, I imagine. So it's just like,
there's no way to contain it.
No, but I feel like Karis knew that he wasn't dealing with the devil himself. He knew he was dealing with something. And at that point, I love the fact that when the drawer opened, he didn't jump out of his skin. He wasn't like, no, fuck, this is real. He was like, do it again, prove me wrong. That could have been a fluke. Could have been, he was very practically minded about it. And I think that I appreciated more than him falling off his stool in disbelief,
Like I would. Do it again. But this is where he performs his what's what I'm looking for, like, task to see if it fits an exorcism. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. The holy water, because it's just water, as us Geordies say, water. Gets the water on her. But she then starts talking in tongues. And very cleverly how they did this. This is a mixture of Linda Blair's voice, Friedrich's voice, everyone's voice is all amalgamated into this. But the words that you can quite clearly hear is Merrin, Father Merrin. And I think
they played a lot of it in reverse as well, to make it sound like it was a language that wasn't the language.
But it,
Because I can't imagine a 12-year, 14-year-old learning Aramaic. You know, it's
No.
not something that I would think would be taught in schools.
you're asking her to say this, see you next Tuesday word. Let's leave her be. Do you know what I mean? let's not put other languages onto her. But when he takes it to a specialist, he says it is an actual language. It's English, and obviously when they play it back, it's the words Father Merrin comes in, and this is, I think, that's the moment when the exorcism is granted, is because Merrin's name is brought up. Merrin has a history of performing an exorcism before, so it would, in the church's head, would make sense that Merrin, she doesn't know anything about Merrin. You can go ahead and do it. And this is where you get the very famous scene that I don't know if you can see on audio, because I generally don't know what's cropped in and what's cropped out, but I have the movie poster here. I also have him right here on my mouse mat. The most famous scene of Max von Sydow walking up to the house. It's beautiful. It's cinematography in the world of cinematography. That
It
is
was based on a
beautiful.
painting.
Renee Magritte, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a painting or a photo that already existed, and Friedkin or Blatty, I can't remember which William it was one of them, saw it, and they just was so taken aback with how ethereal, haunting it was, so simple. It was just
stunning. Silhouette of a man with, in every version that you will see that is not on the screen, the light is beaming out of Regan's room, but in the movie it's just ever so subtly hitting him as he gets out of the car, and instantly my mind does not go to this movie, it goes to Scary Movie 2. And I think James Woods is about to walk into the house, and it does the same thing when the party's happening and all, because when the piano starts to play, I think they're about to start breaking out with "Shake Your Ass." What you shake your ass. Yeah, working with. Also, the woman who's in Scary Movie 2, who plays Chris, is the little girl from The Birds. Have that. She's also in Witches of Eastwick as well. But yeah, I always think of James Woods is about to walk through the door.
Also, Liam, Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah,
mental Rolodex doing that. Then was it Repossessed?
Yeah. Devil in a blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Yeah.
The bit with James Woods though at the beginning where he's straining and he's taking a dump, I just thought was
it's when she spews up, and it's Natasha Lyonne, isn't it? Yeah. It's when she spews up and he goes, "Fuck this." It's all I am waiting for Merrin to say it, but obviously Merrin being so stoic as he is, that's not going to come out of his mouth. He didn't even like it when Linda Blair was swearing. He had to he said cut. When Linda Blair starts doing the "Your Mother Sucks Cocks in Hell," Max von Sydow turned around and went, "Cut, Billy, cut."
As an actor, you can't do that.
And he went, I don't like that. And he was going, "You're going to have to get used to it. This is how she talks." And he's like, oh. And because he was Max was actually probably the most religious out of everyone on set. So this was very personal to him. So to hear a little girl saying "Your mother sucks cocks in hell," or "Your mother sews socks in hell, dying socks in hell," however way you want to say it. I'm trying to be nice because Zara's here and not sure how filthy my I actually am.
Most Yorkshire people say "cunt" without meaning it. So
nice one. I think I'm the only person. No, I have said it once. I've said it on a Sunday once. I've said the word "cunt" before. Paul said it.
Before, I'm sure. It's like a full stop to me. I say it pretty much most days. So the fact that I am on my best behaviour when I'm recording this, I don't say it. It's more effort than I care to admit.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really care. It's not really an issue if we say it or not. It's only if we say it in the first minute or so, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that goes for all swearing though. It's within the first few minutes, just as long as it's clean, we're monetized. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, swearing in my house is just it's second nature. Even in front of my parents, cunt is one of my mom's favorite words. We were brought up that swearing isn't its language. So if it's used in the right context and it's not used to fill a sentence, then there's no harm in saying it. But when you start frequently using it, like I do here, because my dad always says I am foul mouthed when I'm on my podcasts, but I'm no better when I'm there. So it's just like I say, we were always brought up that it was just language.
I think in 1973, to a 44-year-old man who
Oh
had
yeah,
lived through, at that point he would have been in his early teens, maybe 20s when the war hit. You know, we're a man of certain manners, certain disposition. So I can see why he would find it offensive. You know, I can see why anyone did. It's language that was not used in public. Especially not by a 12-year-old kid. I mean,
no,
now
I think
you walk down the street and some chap will call you it, but like,
I know.
in 1973,
fucking 10-year-olds walking past my house saying F this and F that, and they've got a fucking vape in their hand, and I'm like, what the Jesus. But I think it was a shock.
Yeah.
This isn't his world, and children don't speak like this. But he said, catch William. Catch Billy, I can't take this no more. He got over it though, because this performance of everyone in that room was unbelievable. We do get Merrin die halfway through the exorcism, and the whole power of Christ did not compel him because he died.
I have issues with this bit. You knew he wasn't well because you see the exposition in the beginning bits where you see him take a heart pill, he gets a bit wobbly, blah blah.
And you should have took that before he came in. You'd
think, but you knew going into this that you have a feeling it might be his swan song, you know. But it's just the way that nothing really happens. He just goes to sleep.
Yeah.
He's the opening character. He's the build-up. He's the one that this demon is supposed to be afraid of, and he just falls asleep. And I'm like, okay, no supernatural levitations or warts or delusions or of all the things that these demons that are possessing her could do. They didn't do a single damn thing to him, really. Just created smells.
I feel like Merrin's had a relationship with Pazuzu longer than what we have been led to believe. I think this is their final battle. That's the impression I got, given the dig at the beginning. There's obviously something there, especially if Merrin has been brought forward. And this is where this was it was actually Max's idea to ask for Regan's middle name, because the devil doesn't like to be familiarized. So there's little bits like that. I'm trying to think, because my brain's gone to mush. You can tell it's starting to get to a certain time.
For me, it was just the way he sort of sat there at the corner of the bed. It looked like he was praying, and then he was dead. I mean, he would have been an icicle, wouldn't he? Let's be honest. That room was 30 degrees below, or so. It was something insane. It had 4 refrigerators in it.
Yeah, William freaking went all crazy with the temperature in that room. But again, as he said, if you're making this movie now, you'd be able to do it without having to put anyone at risk, because you would have a computer who would be able to do the breath, where the icy breath coming out. He went, I had to improvise.
You can always tell that's fake though. Like breath.
I was going to say, would it be as good though?
No, it wouldn't. And I mean, if they all knew what they were going into to a degree, then I suppose it's fine. But
exactly.
It was just the way that sort of Karras comes up and he sort of picks him up and he's like, oh, he's dead. He's done.
Never mind. I got a job to do.
Carry on.
Yeah. It's like, oh, never mind.
But there's such a big thing of good versus evil going on with the leading up to it, because obviously you've got the power of Christ compels you, and all I can hear in my head is Jonah Hill going, does it, Jay? So many things have been taken from this movie, but then the whole bed rising scene, which is just, it's absolutely beautiful, and the still shot of Regan been broken out of the shackles that she has. Shackles, is that the right word? Restraints.
Yeah.
And she does the big like stretch, and you've got the Pazuzu. Oh my good God, that looks absolutely fucking stunning.
Yeah.
And then you've got Merendine. The best part about this whole scene, all of it, from the minute Merrin and Karis walk into that room, is when she is out of her restraints, sitting at the end of the bed with her hands up like this, and she's just looking at them like a normal fucking person. It is the most creepiest yet beautiful thing in the world. It's unsettling to watch her sitting at the end of the bed and just looking all nonchalant and like, oh, what's going on here? Yeah, he's dead, and like giggling away, and oh, it's creepy. Some of the facial expressions that Linda Blair pulls out though is unreal, especially the she does that so well.
It's because she's a child, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like her face being so childlike,
Yeah.
mixed with that horrific makeup, it's too uncanny for your brain to process.
It's almost like a
horrendous.
Muppet. It's
Yeah.
almost like she's gone all like cartoonishy, Muppety style, and she's like, but you've got to catch her doing it though, because your eye's not meant to be on her. You're meant to be watching everything else around you, and you're missing out on some great facial expressions from her when she's reacting to them performing this exorcism around her. So once Merrin dies, Karis starts to take over, and Karis grabs her and starts shaking and saying, take me, take me. And he fucking does. But this is where the good versus evil has a real battle with the mind, because Karis kind of accepts him in, shoots him back out, and then dives out the window. Take that as you will.
I thought he died with him in him.
I thought he died with him in him.
His eyes change though, because his eyes go from his to the contacts to his again, and then he jumps out the window.
I thought he was just taking control of the fact that the demon was in him, and he was making it.
Could be.
He was making it sure that the demon knew he was controlled by jumping out of the window.
Yeah.
So
it was just my interpretation of it. From when I looked at it, was like it was having like a power, like a fight. But you're right. It could be a case of like he's trapped him there. To like, whoop, we're going. But it's a demon who's managed to spiritually possess your body. You chucking yourself out the window shouldn't really affect that, because it's still going to be fucking lingering. Help me out here. Am I being silly?
No. What was that movie with Denzel Washington? Time is on your side. Yes, it is. And it was Azazel. And it was transferred by touch with Denzel Washington. Yeah, like every time someone walked past, the Azazel would jump into someone else, and then all they had to do was brush or touch or I can't blank on the name of it, but I used to love that film, and it had John Goodman in it as well, and he was a policeman, Denzel Washington, and to me that's how I can sort of see a possession happening. It's just as easy as walking past someone and just a little bit of skin on skin contact, and boom, it's inside you. If you're unaware, you're not going to be able to fight.
Do you know how many films he's been in? I'm going through his filmography and it just fucking loads of them. I know exactly what you mean though the minute you said the name. But yeah, do you think that him just jumping out of a window breaks this curse, ends this demon possession? Or does Pazuzu just go, fuck this, I'm going back? No. You all seem to be looking for the Denzel movie, aren't you?
I don't know. It's my genuine answer to that, because I feel like how did it get into Reagan in the first place? It had to have been through Captain Howdy, right?
Yeah.
So it's through the opening of the Ouija board, because the Ouija board is a gateway, as my mother keeps pointing out to me when she sees mine. It's a gateway. And if you don't close that gateway, you leave it open to the possibility of something lingering about. Watch Witchboard, it explains it really well.
Because Because they say, don't they, to close a Ouija board down, you have to say goodbye, blah, blah, blah,
You
to
have to
shut
ask
it down.
Well, supposedly it depends. I mean, probably everyone will have a different answer for it, but you meant to ask permission to go
Yeah.
and then say goodbye.
Fallen. That's the name of the film. Fallen.
It'd have been so funny if you hadn't gone and checked your phone and then just halfway through, like when we're finishing off, going, fallen.
But yeah, for me, it had to have gone somewhere, but then I suppose we wouldn't be privy to that because I didn't watch it because I don't want to put myself through it, but The Exorcist 2,
No.
it sort of is, it stays with Linda in a way. It stays with Regan, doesn't it? You know,
I tried to watch it. It's unwatchable.
She's a teenager or in her early 20s in that film, isn't she? She's
going through some kind of psychotherapy, and that's as far as I got.
Yeah,
I've watched it once and never again.
I
I heard
don't.
the third one's quite good though.
Which one was the third one? Not Believers.
No.
That was the new one, wasn't it? Which was the
Yeah.
third one?
The third one is the one where it's the famous scene in the hospital where it's a really long shot and there's a nurse that's going from door to door. I think she keeps hearing a noise and she's going from room to room, and it's dead boring. It goes on for a good couple of minutes and you kind of get relaxed into it just watching this nurse.
Mhm.
And then jump scare moment, the camera zooms in on her as she's crossing the hallway, and there's someone with a bed sheet over their heads with like great
Is this
big-
the meme with the
yeah, horrendous.
That sounds familiar. I might have actually seen that now.
Yeah.
I feel like I might have seen that.
Number 3 is not bad.
Yeah.
I've heard it's got the same kind of craftsmanship as the first one.
Is it?
The trying.
Was this one all based in the hospital, roughly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have seen it then.
Oh, I probably haven't thought it was Halloween too.
But yeah, it's like Believer, which was can I prove my case in point here? Who made Believer? What film company? What film house made that film?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I try and defend them, but when they bring so when I first initially watched it, I was like, oh God, because you're very much blinded by the fact that Ellen Bernstein's in this movie. And again, it's another one of those Jamie Lee Curtis moments with Halloween and what they try to do. I kind of get into Texas Chainsaw again, and what they did with Sally. I kind of but you do think like, oh God, legend actor coming on, and I am kind of blown away by that. I actually like the possession side of it, but apart from that, it was a little bit lackluster. I haven't gone back and watched it again after like thinking about it. I was like, meh. Yeah, I can kind of see everyone's point on it. Was it needed? No. Do we need another 2? No.
Mike Flanagan, though, I'm quite happy to see what he does with it.
Yeah, I mean, that is something I'd be interested in watching for 100% because he's one of these people who I wouldn't necessarily say he saw what Glee guy Ryan, what's his name, did with American Horror Story.
Murphy.
That's it. American Horror Story, the first 3 or 4 were genius works of art that nobody had seen on TV. It died off. Like, I can't even bear to watch the last 2 or 3 that have come out. I can't do it. But the first one really hit me massively because it was so different to anything we'd seen as a TV series. So Mike Flanagan, I feel, whether he was influenced by that or not, I don't know, but I feel like there was an element of he took the idea of a horror movie and being able to turn it into many, many parts, but doing it in a way that it's more geared up for adults and not young, late teens at early 20s, because that's what they're more like now through the horror story, American Horror Stories. But this, Mike Flanagan has a way of making something so horrific and suspenseful at the same time as you empathizing with the villains and the bad characters and the just he I think the reason why I'm like comparing him to Ryan is because they use the same cast members. Mike loves to use his wife, and
because she's There's a difference though with certain people using their wives in all their movies. She can actually act. I love what's her name? Kitty Segal. I absolutely love her. Ryan Murphy cannot write an ending to a TV show. And it's been evident since the second episode, the second series of American Horror Story. Even Coven, which is one of my favorites, cannot write a fucking ending. He has a brilliant start, a middle, and an unwatchable end. He has been like that for God knows how long. The only one I can get away with and I literally have to watch it for one character alone, is Hotel. And if I can watch Elizabeth Taylor from the beginning to the end, I bawl my eyes out every single time. It is one of the most beautiful stories. Mike can do horror beautiful from start to end.
All of the House of Usher was, I know it was
I need to watch it again.
Story, and obviously he'd like written the script around the Poe story, but that was, again, unlike anything you've seen, executed in such a way that was intelligent. I think that's the issue. We get Blumhouse, which is your quick, fast, bang for your buck horror, which doesn't have much storyline, doesn't have much content, loads of blood,
shapes and colours.
There's always a stalker and there's always a final girl, and blah blah blah. You know, boring standard. It doesn't matter what kind of Blumhouse movie you have, the formula for every movie is roughly the same.
Yeah.
But what I love about Mike's stuff is it's intelligent. You have to think. It's not exceptionally cerebral. You're not sitting there going, what did I just see? This is, you're going, oh, right, okay, so that's connected. And the fact that I love Ruth Codd as well. Ruth Codd is such an underrated actress, and she's freaking hilarious on TikTok. Absolutely hilarious. Sitting eating her Wotsits, watching the telly.
She is all of us.
What is the one with the priest again? What's that one called?
Black Mass.
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass. It took me a really, really long time to watch that because it was the whole cat scene. I couldn't.
I can't do it. I haven't done it yet. And then I caved because I got bored. And I messaged Sammy and I went, "Fuck me, you need to watch this."
I was like, "Is the cat all right?" She went, "No, but you'll get over it. It's fine. It's not that bad." I was like, "All right, okay." So I did it, and I remember messaging her halfway through, going, "Where's Eddie Spaghetti at?" I genuinely thought the main guy was, what's he called from It?
James Ransom.
Yeah, I thought it was James Ransom. I was waiting for him to come on. I was like, well, where is he? And it's like, it's not him. It's a completely different actor. But that is, I remember listening to somebody review it and say that they were actually one with peace with death once they'd watched, and I totally understood what they meant by the end of it. That is some of the most beautifully heartbreaking, just gorgeous dialogue.
I've got a question for both of you, and I'll go to Zara first. What is your favorite part of The Exorcist, like as a movie as a whole, and who is your favorite character?
So there is a scene, and I can't remember if it's in the extended cut or if it's in the normal cut, but it's Karis and Merrin, and they're talking about why Reagan, like why this little girl, why has this happened? I think it might be in the extended cut, and they're just in shock at what they've just seen. And Merrin says something along the lines of, I think the point is to make us completely despair. It's to make us seem animal and ugly, a rejection of humanity, the rejection that God could ever possibly love us. And he says that that's the reason why Reagan gets possessed. And I just really like that. Like, that's probably one of my favorite scenes, and it's not one of the shock horror scenes. I love a lot of the shock horror scenes. I love all the possession scenes. Like, I love practical effects. So, but I just love that little moment between the two of them. And then what was your other question?
Who's your favorite character?
I love Reagan because of the fact that she gets possessed, and
Yeah.
because Linda Blair's so young, and as far as child actors go, she's incredible.
Mhm.
I think Karis might be my favorite. I love the fact that he sits on both sides of the fence, being a psychologist, but also being
Mhm.
a priest, also having this stuff going on at home with his mother. Regan, when she's possessed, does the voice of his mother, does the voice of
Jamie.
the homeless guy, you know, can you help a poor altar boy out? And just, it's his turmoil that we see through a
Mhm.
lot of it. And I just think he's a really likable character. I think the audience kind of sits behind Karis.
Yeah. That's a
How about you, Sam?
character wise, I have to agree with Zara. Absolutely, Karis is he is the man you are watching go through the turmoil, the reason why, not the reason, but the I can't describe it properly. I'll move on to my other one because I'm going to end up embarrassing myself by
What's
saying
your
words
favourite
that don't
scene?
exist. I really love Chris though. Chris Neal, I absolutely adore. And I'm not talking just Ellen Bernstein's performance of her. I know it's over the top and dramatic, but hey, I like Mummy Dearest, and I love over the top. I mean, I desire one day to be as batshit crazy as Joan Crawford. Do you know what I mean? So I'm on that level when it comes down to the drama, but as a character, how she fights for her, how she constantly like one doctor's opinion was not enough, that she had a whole fucking room full of them, and she fought them every step. She even when she's talking with Kara, she's still fighting for her daughter. She's constant. She's the only one who's kind of, apart from when the priests get involved, is on her side. And it's showing mother's love to such a degree of beautifulness. I use that word quite a bit. My favorite scene.
Yep.
Oh Christ. Probably is Regan sitting at the bottom of the bed.
Where
Just
she's smiling, yeah.
literally she's just chilling. It's just there's nothing. She's done the little giggle. She's looking over to see what's going on. Like Maris, it's the normality of it. It's so fucking creepy that Regan's just like, hey, what's happening here? What's going on here?
The way she giggles as well, and she's like so childlike and putting her hands up to her mouth, like.
But it's when she but when after she's done that moment, she's just looking down and she's just, it looks surreal. It's so surreal that this demon is sat at the end of the bed going, hey. I love it. I could not wait for it to come on me big telly last night. Was it last night? Night before? I can't remember when I watched it. But I was like, oh, it was the night before. I watched Interview with the Vampire last night.
I have a hypothesis, right, about this film.
Yeah.
And it's not popular. I get completely ripped for this on quite a lot of occasions, but this film is called The Exorcist. You see the image of the I've just gone blank. We've just not said his name.
Merrin.
Oh my god, I can tell it's getting late. You see the image of Merrin, and so the film you think is about Merrin. For me, this film isn't about Regan. It isn't about Merrin. The Exorcist is Father Karras.
Yes.
This whole film is about him. It's Damien's movie. It's not Regan's. It's not Karras. It's not Merrin's. This is literally all about Damien. The loss of his mother, the loss of his faith, the ability to be able to keep up with an exorcist in in regards to doing an actual exorcism versus him being a psychologist, knowing that he has no other choice than to take the demon and kill himself.
Yeah.
He does it in such a split second because he knows that he's got nothing to live for left. Or he feels like he's got nothing to live for left. Yeah. So this to me is a story. The Exorcist is Karras. It's not Merrin. So
I agree. I think
that's how I've always seen this film, and I've got shot down for it on a lot of occasions. They're like, why didn't they use Karras in the image? because
Well, because it doesn't look fucking iconic, does it? He looked like a little tiny boxer.
he was
So
5'5". He was 5'5", for Christ's sake.
exactly. Look at Max von Sydow is a man of stature. It makes sense. And it's just an image. It's not the story. And I think these two have got it absolutely spot on that Marin is front and center. No, Karis is front and center. Too many Marins and Karis and can barely talk at the best of times.
So, if you were to remake this film today, and I'm not talking about doing it in exactly the same way like how Billy did it,
yeah,
who would you cast? Would you cast any of the parts different with today's actors that you know are around today?
no.
No, none that spring to mind.
No. Couldn't see anyone else. Don't want to see anyone else. Don't ever want to see them retouch, redo, repurpose, whatever they want to call it, to this movie ever again. There's no need. It's been done. There's a reason this movie is so perfect for all. Leave it alone. No, I can't. I generally can't see. I couldn't picture anyone. Nah. Good question though, but no. Zara?
No, I'm trying to think of, like, especially for Regan's character, like child actors in particular that I've been particularly impressed with in recent years.
Chloe Grace.
Nah, I liked her in Carrie, but nah. Abigail Breslin.
Mm-hmm. They're the kids that I feel like would be lined up for the part. Whether they would get it or not, I don't know. Emma Roberts, for some reason, springs to mind.
She shouldn't.
She shouldn't, but she does. I mean, and the bloody bin, you know. But
the only person I can think of who I was really, really impressed with, and it is another kind of satanic possession film, was Late Night with the Devil. The girl that is in there, I found her particularly
that smile,
unhinged. Yeah, like just the way that she tilts her head, and like I really liked her in that.
That is a good possession movie. That is something for the list. Put on the list.
It's on the list.
Have we got any more facts, figures, what do you call it, to do with The Exorcist?
Not really. I mean, I'm intrigued because Zara, you talk about a lot of horror movies, obviously, on your socials. What would you say was your, as of today, obviously, if this is number one, what's your second and third?
Top horror films?
In any genre. You can genreify, or you can like whittle it down to just whatever works for you.
Ever.
So if I was gonna go for my letterboxed 4, off the top of my head, I think they are Exorcist is number 1. I think Jaws might be my number 2. Love it forever. Midsommar. I know a lot of people hate it.
Oh, I like a little bit of Ari Aster, so I don't mind Midsommar.
And similar line, The Witch, or The Vivitch, as my husband calls it.
I've never seen it. I do keep meaning to go and put it on because I've heard it's fantastic.
Yeah, I do
like to live deliciously.
Yes.
Okay.
I think they would be my 4, but I love film in general. I just so happen to talk an awful lot about horror films. I don't post online about non-horror films. But yeah, they would be my top 4, I think.
Oh, what's your all-time favorite monster?
Ooh.
And I'm not just talking Universal, I'm talking across the board, any kind of monster you can think of.
It would be Frankenstein's monster, or it would be Bela Lugosi. I've got him on my arm as well. Like Dracula, they'd be my 2. I do love.
Fuck off the Perriers.
Creature by creature.
Just for audio viewers, the flash and the tats at each other, the monster tattoos, and I don't have one.
Love, come on.
I don't have a monster tattoo yet.
But what's your Sammy? Yours is Invisible Man, Claude Rains.
Well, it changes from whatever mood I'm in. It's always gonna be Creature. Creature was our first ever episode. There was a reason Creature was our first ever episode, is because here's my little love I don't love them. I do have you just can't see, but I do have a creature section dedicated right the way up the top here. And then we'll go with War Larry the Lurker even. And then, but then we go the Kill Count King himself, Lord Rains. Did you know he killed 123 people in one movie?
I've listened to the episode. Yeah, I was very impressed.
Did you notice though that it kept changing every time we mentioned it? Yep.
It was in the hundreds though, so it's fine.
It was high
in
up.
one film.
One film. Listener, right here. She's an actual, genuine, bona fide listener. And it's not Michael.
No, it's not Mike. Can you think of a movie recommendation of something you've seen in the last couple of months that you feel like more people should see?
The most recent that springs to mind is Longlegs, and I know that it's really divisive. I know that it goes down this horrible route that Jaws goes down of, is it a horror though? Look, I think it's a horror. I think it's psychological horror. I think it's like crime thriller horror. That would be one where I think just out of curiosity go see it, because it's slightly batshit. Nick Cage is in it, and
Nick Cage.
I would marry Nick Cage in a heartbeat.
I have a Nick Cage tattoo on my back.
I just love him.
He's Con Air, so when I move my shoulder, his hair blows in the wind.
I'm so jealous right now. I don't think I've ever been more jealous of a tattoo. The fact you've got the Con Air Nick Cage.
It was a movie that I used to watch every night. I had it on VHS, and you know those TVs that had the inbuilt VHS,
yeah.
And it would just rewind itself, and then I'd wake up, play it, and go to sleep with listening to it. So I knew every word for word, as it goes. And even now, when it comes on TV,
yeah, I've got it on DVD. It's a regular watch. That and Face Off.
Oh, I like Face Off.
Sam, have you seen something recently that you feel like everybody should see?
No. I'm still catching up on the ye oldies. The ye oldies. I tell you what I am watching at the moment though. Interview with the Vampire, as I mentioned earlier. I started the TV show last night. I did fall asleep during the second episode, admittedly, but I had a shit day at work, so or a shit day in general, should I say? I didn't mind it. I am a big Anne Rice fan. I have read Interview with the Vampire. I've actually read the majority of the Vampire Chronicles. She got the TV show got a few things right that the movie didn't, as the book kind of represents. It's a nice spin on it. I'm not minding it. But again, I'm only one episode in. But I ain't minding the fact that Grey Worm is now not becoming Grey Worm, because he was a dick. He should have died. But hey, I didn't write Game of Thrones.
I've got one last question,
lady.
If you could choose one genre of horror movies, slasher, psychological, possession, like all the subgenres you get.
Yeah.
Which would you say was your either go-to or most favorite kind of subgenre?
Okay. You got to answer this one too, though.
Me? Oh God. Okay.
Go on then. Well, yeah. Ask the question.
I've it now, haven't I? I like a psychological horror, but I also like torture porn. I love Hostel.
Okay.
There's something about Hostel, with the first one that when it came out was so visceral.
Hit a nerve.
It was so, I don't know, I think it was just so out there, and there was like nothing was off the table. It was all very much like it could possibly happen. You could travel to a country, they could steal your passport, and next thing you know, you wake up and you're being bet on for money for people to kill you. It's been that rumor that has been around for God knows how many years that this is a thing that could happen. Oh, don't go there, that might happen. So there's something about that kind of genre of movie to me that, the gore porn thing, it's very, it's kind of realish in a way. It's exaggerated, but I like that. I like psychological because sometimes I like a movie to stay with me after I've watched it.
Yeah.
Because I think if it stays with me, then it was good, because I watched so many movies. I watched so much horror. I watched so much everything. If something has the ability to keep my brain working after it's finished, then they've done their job right to me.
Yeah, I get that.
I am partial to a good old slasher at the same time as well.
Oh, just another slasher.
So I can never make up my mind 100%, but that's my scale goes boop, 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 boop all the time. But that's where I'm sort of at with mine. So
go on then, Zara.
I love religious horror, so put that to one side. I think probably found footage would be my next one. So started off with Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity films. I've seen them all. Wreck, Hell House LLC, Grave Encounters, anything like that.
Have you seen the Poughkeepsie tapes?
Yes, I have.
That's a weird one. Found footage. That's
VHS, like anything like that. I love found footage, and I think it is because it's so close to reality. Like it puts you in that frame of mind. I also love J horror. So original Ring, Ju-On, Dark Water. When I had COVID a couple of weeks ago, I watched the original Ring, the original Grudge, the original Dark Water, and then I straight after I watched all three of the American remakes, and I love the American remakes as much as the Japanese ones.
They are such a good remake because they are not. It's not all they're doing is translating something into Western, so it's not taking the piss, not trying to outdo. They're literally just trying to make what some people find difficult with J horror into a westernized version of it.
Jennifer Connelly, wasn't it, in Dark Water?
No.
What am I thinking of?
Jessica Alba.
Jessica Alba. Yeah, no, I'm thinking of something else, but Dark Water. Yes, I've seen that one.
Yeah, that's the one that's associated with Elisa Lam, but I'm not going to get into that. Otherwise, we'll be going down a fucking rabbit hole.
That'll last episode.
That'll last a fucking lifetime. That one. I am exactly the same. I'm a found footage horror person, but I can mix that with anthology horror as well. I love anthology horror, but I feel that's a bit of a cop-out answer because it can cover all different varieties of horror, so I could get away with anything. Found footage horror is one of my favorites. The VHS series is amazing, but again, that is still almost in the anthology era as well as found footage because it's all different stories amalgamated into link together. But I did Blair Witch Project is where I kicked it off for us. There's a couple of indie ones I've seen that I cannot remember. Me and Anth went through a stage of going through found footage horror. And there was one where it was literally we stayed with a couple in a tent all night. And it was some of the creepiest shit. Like, it's when nothing is happening, everything is happening in your head. It's fucking bizarre. So yeah, found footage, anthology horror. And who doesn't fucking love a and who doesn't love the fucking golden oldie ones either?
The ABCs of Death is a good anthology one.
I love ABCs of Death.
Interesting.
And ABCs of Death too. The fact that you get
now, are we talking about actual death, or is this like
it's an anthology? So there's like they're about 2 or 3 minutes, aren't they? Each A, B, C, D, E, and they're like each one has been shot and made.
Oh, it is literally the alphabet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
ABCs of Death 2. The director for the letter B is it Julian Barrett from The Mighty Boosh?
Yeah.
And he does Death by Badger. So it is
Shut
worth
up.
watching just for that.
I am a Boosh fan. Who doesn't love the Boosh? Oh my gosh, why have I never heard of this? Okay, that's something to watch over the weekend. Oh, actually, it's not. I'm going to a quiz.
Ever drunk Bailey's from a shoe?
We wrap this bad boy up. I heard what you said.
I
heard what you said.
Have you ever been to a club where people wee on you? No, but I don't intend to either.
Oh my god, that is our episode of The Exorcist.
Danielle has been possessed at the end.
Ending it with Dan asking you a very serious question. Let's see what the comments say when we've got it live on Monday, shall we?
No, I won't be tuning in.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Zara. It
Thank
just
you for
honestly,
having me.
it generally just felt like it was just an episode with like a normal episode, and Zara's just there, just joined, like she's always been
Hanging
there.
around,
Yeah.
lurking in the background.
Oh, that Yorkshire lass is here. Oh, great. Next week. What's next week?
Say it thrice. I know it's 5 times, isn't it, Candyman? Yeah, it's Bloody Mary's 3 times. Candyman's 5 times.
We're doing Candyman because Dan just give it away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next week we're going back to double feature. We're doing the original Candyman and we're doing Jordan Peele's. Oh, isn't that
Ah.
pretty?
My little loot fright Candyman, Jordan Peele.
Our audio listeners won't be able to see what we're referring to, but
So go watch the bleeding video.
exactly.
Eh?
I ain't describing it to you.
Very disappointing. It's just a mirror. It's fine.
Yeah, so we're doing the original, we're doing Jordan Peele, double feature. It's a horror character that I don't feel that gets a lot of love and he is iconic. He is up there. Is he a slasher? Is it a slasher?
Well,
No.
that is the question.
Well, Dan's just answered it right there, and you shaking your head.
But then again, I might do my research and change my mind. But at the moment, where I stand on it, no, it's just a scorned man on a love story, basically. So,
well, we'll find out next week. But this episode is available on YouTube from Monday at 8 o'clock. The audio for this episode and any other episode associated with Nerdy Up North is up on a Tuesday. Why? Because I put them there. If you can remember to, if you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Links for Bleeding Marvelous, Nerdy Up North, Monsters Up North, all of Zara's social media pages are where, Dan?
down there somewhere. Down there. Down there.
Down there. And audio listeners, if you are listening, please give us a rating, a like, a heart, a whatever. Just let us know that you're there. Because if you letting us know that you're there, then it lets other people know that we're there, and more people will come and listen. And essentially, that's what we want. I really, want to grow. Please. I think that's it. Have I covered? I never do these right. Have I covered it? Links. Next episode. Yeah?
Yep.
Well, Zara and Dan, if there's nothing else left to say goodbye, the Perriers.
Bye, the pair of yous.
Bye.
Stay spooky, everyone. Bye.
He's all right.